everyone has their own journey. Everyone's different. I haven't done journalism in a while. Now I'm doing social media, but I'm still part of it. I think it's good not to compare yourself. Your essence is what is part of you.
What's up, everyone? You're tuning into the Diamond Strong podcast. It's where you come feeling good and you leave feeling great. The action starts now.
Before we start, I do want to tell you, I don't know if you remember, but on March 23rd, 2013, I put your interview on my YouTube. So, like about 10 years ago, I interviewed you, and now you're interviewing
Wow.
me. I think it's insane. I just watched it and I was like, oh my God, we're like babies.
So I was just telling my dad, I'm like, cause he's been seeing me that I'm doing all the podcasts and stuff. And I live in Tampa, but I come down
Oh,
here a
wow.
lot to do podcasts, right? I try to get them in person as much as I can.
Hmm.
When I have the camera guy, the whole nine, everything has to go right,
Yeah.
right? But I try to get here as much as possible. And he's like, "Oh, who are you doing?" You know, I told him, "Hey, I have a podcast now, whatever." He's like, "Who are you doing?" Nicole. He goes, "What?" Like, I'm like, "Yes." And he always shows that video to everybody because it starts
Oh
with
my
me
God.
as a baby, like the young
Yes.
picture that you put at the
Yes.
beginning.
I just watched it and I was like, oh my God. Even myself, I'm like, my eyebrows. But it's crazy
Oh
how
man.
time passes by. And you're one of my first few interviews that I did like for my like reel, you could say. You're
Uh-huh.
one of the first couple, and I was like, it's crazy how I'm like, Willie's gonna make it. I knew it from the beginning.
Uh-huh.
It's crazy.
Oh man. What like it's I really wanted to I wanted to ask you about that time because I wanted to know in my head you were a professional. Like the way that you
Really?
handled what?
Thank you.
Like the way you handled yourself, everything was like so structured. And I am like a chicken with his head cut off. Like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm winging it. I'm winging everything. Like when did you like really find like, all right, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do it right. And like, how did you learn? Who taught you? Like, how did
I
that go?
mean, I think you have the key ingredient that I have. I don't think it's about experience or what you do in school. I think it's a passion, right? For me, it's always been storytelling. I've always loved sports, right? So when I first went to FIU, everything was like American football, and I'm like, I like baseball. I did an internship American football. I'm like, this game is too much for me. And for me, baseball has been a way to connect both like my American roots and my Hispanic roots, right?
Mhm.
So that's why I've always been inclined to sports and more so like storytelling. I believe each athlete has a story. And, when I was in college, they tell you to do your YouTube page. Back then, there was no social media. So
Crazy.
I was like, okay, I'll create my channel. That's what you're one of, I think, my third or fourth interview.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you remember, but the mic didn't work the first time, and I had to tell you to redo the interview. And I was so embarrassed because my sister didn't put record. Yeah. See,
I
those are the little things that I remember. I'm sure you don't, but I was like, oh my God, how embarrassing. I'm so unprofessional. But I think it's more about learning as you go. And like
Yeah.
I said, when you have passion, it'll take you to places, right? So for me, it's always been storytelling. Each athlete has a story. For me, it's been baseball. I've interviewed a lot of players, and I think at the end of the day, they all want to make it mostly for their families, for themselves. And
Mhm.
I think it's important to say that. And even though it's hard to make it, as you can tell, is
Oh yeah.
it's hard to make it anywhere. It's so hard, but I think if you stay true to yourself, it's gonna take you the extra mile.
Yeah. And I bet you hear so many commonalities like within everybody's stories, I'm sure, and I'm getting the
Mhm.
same thing. But is it interesting to see like the little different intricacies of somebody's story and like kind of relaying it to like, oh, I get why he's the way he is. Do you
Yes.
ever have like those like aha
Oh,
moments?
yes, 100%. And I think even more with athletes, baseball players is what my career's
Hmm.
been with mostly. And some people are like, ay, es un pesado. And I'm like, I interviewed him fine. They're like, what? I'm like, I think it's also about how you approach someone.
Yeah.
In WBC now, it's my recent experience of seeing so many reporters from different countries. So when I was with MLB, the Dominicana team, the DR press, it was insane. Then the Puerto Rico press, and it was just the Mexico press. So I'm like, wow, I stood there and I looked at how players interact with media, how media interacts with players. why some players don't want to do interviews. I'm like, wow, I get it, because some people are rude, right?
Yeah.
Or they remember that that journalist spoke bad about them, and I think people from my side, right? I see like they want the baseball player to perform, 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 but they forget they're human. Maybe they had a bad day at home. Maybe they had an argument with their girlfriend or life, right? They're not machines. This is what I tell people, and they're like, "No, they're paid the big bucks." I'm like, "It's not about the big bucks. It's about
Yeah.
who they are as a human," right? And I think people forget that in any sport, whether it's American football, basketball, people want you to be like these monsters, and you guys are human.
It's crazy, man, because it, in a sense, like I've tried to be as like relatable to, again, I was an athlete forever, so I try to be as relatable as I can, but seeing it from this side, I get it even more now, right?
Exactly.
Because they, like, you go all day, right? You have an issue, you have a problem, and then you have to put on a face and
Yes.
get to work. And your work is not in a cubicle. Your work is in front of thousands and thousands of fans, and
Yes.
they don't care. They don't
Exactly.
care, and they don't realize that what's making somebody un pesado is you.
Yes.
Because you're the one that's making them un
Yes.
pesado. Because you're
Exactly.
coming and grilling them after striking out 3 times and saying, "Why'd you
Exactly.
strike out 3 times?" Well, because I had to go
Hmm.
up to the plate. That's why he struck out 3 times.
Well,
But I
that's why
got to
I
hit
think
3 times. 3 times.
human empathy is nowadays there's barely any empathy, right? And even more when I mentioned with
Yeah.
athletes, when I saw in WBC, oh, he didn't hit, like all these games that were big deal. You can have a team with superstars, but it doesn't mean that they're all gonna hit home runs, and people get mad. I'm like,
Yeah.
what do you expect? They're human. It's about enjoying the game every day, and some you might have a bad day today, but tomorrow you have a better day, and it's just that's part of the game, I think. And people, they have this mindset of winning, this mindset of
Yeah.
I don't know what people think, and so it makes it harder on the player, which I think that's why a lot of them are misunderstood. And then sometimes when they talk, they're like, "Oh, este es un pesado," or "This one is this," or "This one is that," and you're not understanding them as a human, but they're seeing the
Yeah.
player.
Do you think it's also because people, like, I don't know, man, like in normal jobs, like you don't have a normal job, so you get it. Like you don't get instant gratification. Like it, sometimes you had to build to where you are now,
Yes,
but
correct.
a lot of people have had it maybe a lot easier and better. Do you think the fact that they go to work, do good, it's good. I did a good job, so he should go to work and do a good job. Like they don't realize like that.
Hmm.
Do you think that's what it is too? Maybe.
Maybe, and I also think it might be. I don't want to say the word, but it might be another one, like jealousy, because they see that you made it. Some people don't dare to dream. They say, "Oh, he had it easy because he was a baseball player." But I've seen baseball players struggle, right? Whether you're from the US or from what I've seen from Latin America, even the double the work.
Oh
So
yeah.
I think I see athletes as you guys have this superpower because you decided to go after a dream after many challenges, whether you made it to the big leagues or
Mhm.
not. You're still putting yourself out there. And a lot of people, oh no, I have to work, I have to have a career. So they settle down and they get mad at those who went after their dreams. Sometimes I get that because even for me, they're like, "Ah, you're so lucky. You work WBC, you work for MLB." I'm like, but I feel like I still have more to do, and I'm not complacent at where I am. Like sometimes I'm really hard on myself because I want more. I'm like, okay, I'm here, but I deserve here, so why not more? And some people are like, "Where did you get it from?" Like, I don't know. I just what's wrong with wanting more in your life? Why stay complacent? And I think those are the people who are the ones screaming at the ballpark because you didn't hit a home run.
Oh man, were
You
you
know,
always
it's
were you always like that? Like since a little girl, when you were a baby, like that's you were always like, "Ma, get
yes,
on my, get on my, get on my."
not much, but I've always, I don't know, my mind's always worked differently. Like I remember being in college and being in like a fraternity party because I was in a sorority,
Mm,
and I'm there having fun, but I'm like, there's more to life than this. I mean, this is fun. Like I should be enjoying this moment, which I did, but I'm like, there's got to be more to life than just partying and then getting a job, getting married. I mean, I want all those things. I want to get married. I want to have
of
kids and all that.
course.
But I don't know. You have to want more for yourself because then you get mad at yourself for not going the extra mile, right? I think you have to be your biggest cheerleader, but also your biggest advocate to push yourself even harder. So some
It,
people don't like to do that. They say like, "Oh, I'm supposed to do this, I'm supposed to do that." And it's fine if they're okay with it, but don't go after people who go the extra mile.
I've had such a hard problem with that in my life, like actually allowing myself to like work hard, like
Mm.
because it's not the norm. Like I
Yeah,
almost
yeah,
I almost had to like fake it, like, oh, I'm not really working that hard. Like, and then it finally got to a point, I think maybe like at 25, 26, maybe, that I was like, for like the last 2, 3 years, I've been like, you know what? Like that's if I want to work hard, I'm gonna be the hardest worker. That's okay.
exactly.
Did you ever like have to like tiptoe that side, like, oh, do I want to work too hard, or should I maybe just stay in my lane, or should I do what people tell me? Did you have a lot of people tell you like, nah, like,
Oh
oye,
yeah.
tranquilízate, like you don't have to do that much, like relax.
Yeah. I think, oof, a lot. And lately, I mean, I'm 33, I don't mind saying my
Mm-hmm.
age, but lately, like, oh, you should be married, you should have kids. Why are you so picky? I'm like, why not be picky? I'm if I'm choosing a partner, it's
It's
I've always
forever.
felt exactly, but people don't think like that. They're like, oh, age. But I'm like, why have this set timer or set like schedule, right? I think life, we saw the pandemic, it throws a curveball at you. So what are you gonna do? And I think for me, the biggest thing has been making it to where you want to be. It's been lonely because no one thinks like you. Like you just said it, and it's like, wow, when I was in college partying, it was fun, but no one thought like me. Like, I just enjoy the moment, Nicole. Have fun. One more shot. I'm like, but I don't know. It's like people don't think like you, so you feel lonely. So that makes you want to keep, I guess, pushing yourself harder to keep going to where you want to be. But
Yeah.
sometimes lately, I'm like, is that vision worth it? Because it's alone. And you have friends, but you start losing friends because of, I think time and chapters in life. But if people don't add, you start subtracting because they don't see your vision. Like, look, lately I had a interview with my book, and the lady was like, "Oh, we're interviewing Nicole." It was a Spanish interview.
Mm-hmm.
She is Woman of the Month, an example. She does it all, and I was there like, hmm. She's a sports journalist. She has a nonprofit. Now she wrote a book. What else can you not do? And I was kind of like, oh, thank you for having me. But I was like, why does someone have to be one thing or two things? Life, you have one life. Do as many things as you want to do. I did this book. I failed. It took me 3 years. I failed like twice. People disappoint you. You keep going. And that's what I think it goes back to what people, oh, it didn't work out the first time. Let me sit down and, okay, that's it. I tried it. Keep pushing harder, which is something that I feel I'm not a baseball player, but I see it. Like maybe you made it to double A, they put you down, and you're like, was I brought down? You're in triple A. Why didn't I make it to the big leagues? They put you back down. And I think that's what makes you different because you push harder. And even if they release you or whatnot, then you're like, what do I do? I think everything you've gone through has taken you to who you are as a person because Willie is Willie on and off the field. Because I think what you did on the field reflects on who you are as a person. So,
Woo! Oh, that's a good first 15 minutes, if I say so. Oh man, no, you're absolutely right. You hit it on the head, because I and you brought it up, and now I'm thinking about it too. It's like I hated people saying like, I
yeah.
mean, listen, I had the benefit of it, mind you. I was in school, and even teachers, I got special privileges because I was an athlete. You're a baseball player. Like, if I had a group project, like, Willie, don't worry about it, because I was nice, because I was a good guy. Esto lo otro, trataba la gente bien. Like, everybody's like, oh, it's okay, don't worry, we'll take care of it. Like, have fun at your game, do good at your game. And it's like, it upsets me a little bit that
Really?
because it's like, again, not that upset. I appreciate it.
And then when we're like,
But
thanks.
yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. But in a sense, like, I was always put in that, like, you're a baseball player. Like, that's what you do. Like, you're a baseball player. And it's like, no, like, I love being on camera. I love being on camera when I was on camera with you. Like, I
Yeah,
always said it. And it wasn't until, like you said, you just got to do it. It's lonely, but you got to do it
exactly.
yourself.
Yeah.
Like, only certain amount of interviews, right? And then all of a sudden it's like, well,
Mhm.
let me put my damn stuff on camera, and we'll figure it out. So it's like, it's so true, because the dream, it's always by yourself. Always, always,
Mhm.
always. When you're working late nights, editing, doing your thing, like,
Yep.
writing your book, you're by yourself. Like,
Yep.
nobody's around you. Nobody has that same vision. Like, when did you start kind of understanding maybe the scope, at least, of your vision, like the kind of the angle that you wanted to take and that you wanted to get kind of, first of all, obviously into sports, you knew that early, but now I wanted to know kind of more about when you wanted to see like, all right, now I want to do, philanthropy and obviously writing a book. Like, did that just come naturally? It was just a natural progression, or it was like you had it written out way before it actually happened?
I don't know. I think it's crazy how they tell me, why did you start your nonprofit? So I went to Colombia. My parents are Colombian to do two
Mm-hmm.
interviews for my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And I interviewed a baseball scout, and he also was a coach for little kids. And I just went in there, and little kids in other countries are very curious.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "Oh, who are you? I've never seen you before. What are you doing?" And I just told him, "Oh, I'm doing an interview on your coach. Let me interview you." And he's like, "Okay." And I was fake interviewing him. So I was like, "Oh, what do you think of your coach?" And he's like, "Oh, I love him." And I swear in that moment, I still get goosebumps because I just heard the little kid say he loved his coach because he taught him baseball. And because of baseball, he has his little friends, and he kept going and going and going. And I was like, in that moment, I listened to something that he loved. And I guess my intuition was there's more kids like him who need the support. So why not help kids like him? He didn't tell me, like, give me a bat or I need money. He just told me he loved to do something, but I knew he was, his family didn't have a good income.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in life it's important to listen, number one, to your intuition, whether this goes to life, professional, dating. Like if you're in a date and the guy gives you bad vibes, you bad vibes.
A la puerta.
Exactly. Listen to it because sometimes we doubt it. Like even if you're supposed to go, maybe someday, for example, they say you have an appointment, your car broke down. You get mad because your car broke down, but maybe you weren't supposed to be on the road that day. I think if we listen more to intuition and things like that, it will lead us to happier lives, I guess. Um, so I listened to my heart when I started my nonprofit. Writing my book, I always said I wanted to write a book. I didn't know how, but I guess I manifested it when you're young. You start thinking things. And then boom, it came out as a children's book. I didn't know what it was going to be or when, and it happened. I always said I want to work WBC, and I worked WBC. I'm like, what? I think if you manifest things, even though sometimes we're really hard on ourselves, when I was standing right there in WBC, I was like, wow, like this is Javi Baez right here, and this is Lindor. Like, what? Like, and then when I had like Otani in front of me, I'm like, this is you had all these reporters, and because I work with MLB, I got to be closer,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just taking it in because again, you could be busy working, but you have to take the moment in because I knew it wasn't gonna come back. So I think it's about manifesting and being your biggest cheerleader. A lot of people tell you no. When I started my nonprofit, I had my own godmother tell me, "What are you doing? Stick to your profession. Why help other people?" And this isn't that. So when people tell you no after a good cry, I was like, I'm gonna prove them wrong. And it's gonna be 10 years in January. It's been more than 3,500 kids, three
Wow.
countries, and there's a kids now who are in he's now in Tampa Bay, and he remembers me that I went to his team when he was back then like, young, and now he's a pitcher for the Rays. So it's like, what? So I
Wow.
think it's just, the other day I heard something, when you're blessed, bless others. And I had nothing to bless others with. I just had a heart. And I've always been someone to listen to my heart, follow my heart, even though sometimes having a good heart in this kind of evil world, you get tossed around a lot, and sometimes I get mad. I'm like, where do I have to be so empathetic? But I think God, the universe made me this way for a reason. And for those who don't accept me, or I've had it rough at work with other coworkers or whatnot, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to change who I am. That says about who they are, right? And that's how you have to take it.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with you.
Yeah,
The only
even
thing
though it's hard,
I
you
know,
think
it's
it's
so
you,
hard. It's
and
so
you're like,
hard.
ooh,
What
but
you talk so much about manifesting. Like, did you have you watched The Secret or read The Secret? I said watch because I watched the movie and there's a movie and a book. The Secret. You ever heard of that?
no, I have not. I've heard about
Oh,
it, but I haven't watched it.
so it's about having a positive mindset and that you could attract, manifest, basically manifest things. And the car story reminded me of it because that was one of the examples. It's like, hey, if
Really?
you know you're not, like, I get those feelings all the time when I'm even at a red light, something,
Yes,
and it
same
says,
here.
and it's like, I can make a right. I know I can make a right now, but I'm like, let me just stay here and like just
Exactly.
wait. I know the light's about to turn green. Like, I'll relax. It's like that intuition, like that feeling that I had. There was a reason for it.
Exactly.
Like, I'm not
Yep.
gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. Can you? I like. Have you ever seen baseball like the WBC? What other baseball experience have you had that even comes close to what you saw in those 10 days?
Nothing, to be honest. It was just like the atmosphere, the people, the players feed off of that. It was, I don't know, something you can't explain. I do remember I think it was 2 years ago, right in between the pandemic, I went to
Mhm.
Mexico for La Serie del Caribe.
Yeah.
And it was just insane. The first day was opening night. People were still wearing masks because it was still, after COVID. And it impacted me to see that stadium. I'm going to send you videos of how impactful it was just to see how in Mazatlan, Mexico, people are enjoying this game. And I was like, what? Do people know how big baseball is? It's not ours. Like, yes, it's from
Yeah.
the US, but it's so impactful worldwide. And I was talking to a coworker who she was in WBC in Japan, and she would tell me, Nicole, Japan is another level as well. So imagine, I think the WBC is the party of baseball, el festival, how they were saying, how all these players, they were just pride. Every day they would just wake up and you would talk to them, and it was just pride because they had their country across their chest, right? And that was insane. Whether it was USA, whether it was Japan, and Venezuela, Mexico, it was awesome to see that. And I think it was also, at least I hope people took away from it how impactful it is where you come from. And I'm going to tell you, I don't want to get into politics, but I worked the Cuba game and it was really hard. Like the vibe, as soon as BP hit, it was hard. You can tell the players were off, the audience, the fans, it was off. There was a time that I went inside the tunnel and I just sat down. I'm like, this is bigger than us. And I hope people acknowledge whether I'm not Cuban, my friends are Cuban. I was born and raised in Miami, so I kind of feel Cuban, arroz y frijol are my go-to with
Yeah.
té de palomilla.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people that I could say coworkers from other parts of the US who had no idea maybe what's going on in Cuba, they saw it firsthand and it really took them back.
Yeah.
And I told them, I hope you understand it's not about being Latino or one country or the other. You
Mm-mm.
got to feel that, right? And when they had people getting on the field, other people are like, oh, Miamians I would hear like, oh, yo
Yeah,
soy
of
loco,
course.
ay, yo
Yeah.
sabía, I gotta stick it. For the
Yeah.
Americans were like, whoa. I'm like, this is their way of expressing what's going on. They use this platform. I'm like, does this affect you? Because I got we had to park somewhere else and we had like an employee
Hmm.
shuttle. I sat in the shuttle and it was just hard. Like I went to sleep that day and I was just like, wow, this game was on another level because this was bigger than us. And that's what I think. If people believe baseball or any other sport is bigger than the athlete, it's bigger than the game itself. It can unite or not unite people. You don't have to know the language, but it can bring you together. So that game was really interesting on another level, and a lot of people felt that because it made it surreal. Because I even saw like there was like a suite, there was someone there from the Cuban government, fans were attacking
Oh
him.
my gosh.
That was it was hard to see because if you're not
I'm in
human, if
tears
that
already
doesn't
right
if
now.
that
Like
doesn't get
I
your heart beating, I was standing there because I don't know, it's those things that in the moment. And the guy was crying and screaming at this guy, and I was like, I wonder who it is. And the guy was head to toe Cuba, so I don't know who he is, but it was very impactful to see. And I know even American players, they were like, well, I'm sure a lot of them were, what's going on? And press started writing about why did they run in the field? What does it mean? Oh, this is going on in Cuba, etc. So I think that game, as eerie as it was and emotionally draining, I think it taught the world a lot. I hope the world was noticing because
Ah, but it was real.
it was real.
That's
Yeah.
the thing. Like I think being in baseball, and obviously you work in baseball too, so much of it because of the business side, it's taken away like the realness of the game because players don't feel like they can be themselves as much as maybe they could be when they're playing for the just the love of the game. Like I think it's gone a little bit, and I'm going to ask you about it too. But it's tough. And during those games, I think it felt another. It just felt so real. Like everything was so genuine and real, and even like the fans, like you said, the
Hmm.
Cuba game, like seeing all those things happen on the field, like it it really showed that there was human beings on that field. Like we went back to what we were talking about before. Like, oh, these baseball players aren't human. Like, no, you
Yeah.
saw humans on that field. You saw humans in the stadium. Everybody was on the
Yeah.
same page.
Yeah.
And what do you think they have to do to bring that to like the season? Like, is there anything that they can do to like maybe replicate even close? I mean, it kills me to see that stadium in Miami. 1 week it is absolutely
Yeah.
packed. The other day it was empty.
Yeah.
I mean, every day it was empty. Like,
I think going back to that to make it like a broader thing without getting too much with MLB, which is still
yeah, yeah,
my
yeah. I know.
employer. I
I'm
think
sure.
as a personal note, right? I think
Yeah.
it's up to the player, right? I think we live in a society where there's a lot of constraints and rules. What can you do? What can you say
Mhm.
now with social media? But that's why I think it's up to you, really. Like you might be in a team and you don't like the vibe of fulanito or they're telling you not to be like that, but you're gonna be you. Stay true to who you are, and the fans will notice it. People
Yeah.
will notice who's Willie when he goes up to bat, when he's being himself, and when he's not being himself. And I think that's what these players, when they were with their teams, they let their guard down and they were themselves. But a lot of them, look, I interviewed Julio Rodriguez
Mhm.
back when it was in May. He was up and coming in Seattle, and I knew this kid was going to be big, and now
Mhm.
he's huge a year later.
Yeah.
And when I interviewed him in, I think that was in May 2022, he's still the same guy I just saw at WBC. And that's why people love him because you don't put a persona, don't be something that you're not, just be who you are. So that's why I think it's personal for you to you live the game how you want to live it. There's a lot of rules, there's a lot of expectations, but a lot of people follow players. I like to follow players instead of teams
Mhm.
because it's different, right? So because I know Fulanito, he's gonna be the same when he was here that he was gonna be over there. So that's why I think you should put your touch with that. And with everything else, what was the other question? Sorry. We
I don't
went
even
off
know.
on one.
I was literally paying attention to you so much. I have no idea what I asked you. I don't even remember.
You were talking about how,
It
oh
was more.
wow.
Wow, this is fun. It was more about just like
Oh,
trying to figure out to get that into the game. Like, yeah,
but that's okay. Going back
yeah,
to that, I knew there was something about the
yeah.
players, right?
Yes, yes,
I
yes.
was watching the other day. I believe today is Friday. I don't know. A couple of days ago, I had the Yankees game,
Hmm.
and Gleyber Torres did a home run in the Yankee Stadium. That was insane. And he ran the bases, and the announcer's like, I'm feeling like it's a WBC game and he's representing Venezuela because he ran. That's what I'm telling you. It's up to the player. He
Hmm.
didn't care where he was. And look, I get chills because it was amazing. He hit the home run. He looked at it. He ran each base. And when he got to home, he did exactly how he did when Venezuela. I think they did something like
Hmm.
that. I don't know. And the guy's like, this is crazy. We're doing a WBC celebration in Yankee Stadium. I'm sure they
Wow.
would have told him, no, don't do that. That's against the rules. He was doing it because, and everyone blew up. Like the fans, the announcer, and I got chilled and I even put it at work. Like, guys, they just said, like, this is the best reference. The announcer who's from New York, I don't know, I'm sure he's American, and
Hmm.
he just referenced to Gleyber Torres celebrating as if it was the WBC. So that's why I think it's up to the player. Like, keep it up. People now have this, they're still in the WBC, like, emotion. Keep it
Vibe.
up.
Yeah, keep that vibe going.
Exactly.
Keep that
Keep the
vibe
vibe
going.
up. It's up to you. Like, I'm sure Gleyber Torres, he probably didn't even think about it. He just lived the emotion of the home run and he was being true to himself. So that's why I kept saying it's up to the player. There's a lot of rules and things that I don't even know. And being within the company too, you hear things, don't do it. And now you're like, okay, now I get why certain things aren't done. But you as a player, keep it real because fans will know that. And I think that's what's important.
I when I started doing this, and I'm still struggling it sometimes. I see myself getting caught up and trying to act like trying to be something on camera. Did you ever have an issue with that? Did you have to like learn how to like kind of relax?
Yes. 100%. Look, when you're in college, at least back in the day, it was this is a couple years ago, I didn't see women in sports. I didn't see a Latina. I don't like to say Latina because I think we're all Americans and your
Yeah.
heritage is part of who you are.
Yep.
But I didn't see someone that looked like me on TV. So the only ones that I saw were in Spanish TV, and I kind of became like, oh, they did this. I would do research. I have to do that. And it took me, I would say recently, maybe when I turned 30, that I was like, everyone has their own journey. Everyone's different. I mean, I haven't done journalism in a while. Now I'm doing social media, but I'm still part of it. I think it's good not to compare yourself. Your essence is what It's part of you. And I think it's important to keep it real, even though it's hard to keep it real. Like I told you, it's been rough with coworkers, mostly women in the industry. They want to bring you down. I'm like, talk about
What?
women power.
Damn.
Yeah.
There ain't none of
Yeah.
that. Yo, girls are
Yes.
mean.
Well, yeah. Just like I say, guys are chismoso, but because guys like to know the cheese. They're like, oh, dime. I'm like, oh, but look at you being
Mira, y las mujeres son las chismosas, no, son los hombres.
no, los hombres también. But I'm telling you, I've had it really hard, like tears. Like I even had a panic attack. Like, do I really want to do this? Like, is it worth it? Because women in the field, and they're like, I what? I no.
Oh
Yes,
my gosh, I hate that. Yo,
yes,
they know how
yes.
to do it. They
Oh,
know because you're emotional, because like you have
yes,
passion. They know how to dig it out of you because they,
yes. And they don't like it. It's the jealousy, and I'm like, how can someone? If there's room for all of us, because how you interview is different, how the other person interviews.
yeah,
And I remember someone's like, why does all the players want to say yes to you? I'm like, maybe because personality. I mean, I didn't tell her that, but it's like I told you, it's also how you ask the question. It's not about, hey, can you ask, like, hey, can you please, or how do you, I don't know. There's ways of coming about, and how some people express themselves, some people vibes. I'm all like, vibes don't lie.
no,
There's players that I've interviewed, I'm like, I did my job, but that guy had bad vibe. Or I've done other ones and this guy surprised me.
yeah,
But at most, 99% of them have always said yes to me, or if they don't want to answer a question, then I'm like, answer another one. I even had players cry. Like I had someone like, you just made Fulanito cry. I'm like, I didn't want him to cry. But I asked him about his mom. That's something
oof,
human,
yeah,
and it's like people forget, like, you didn't hit, you didn't do that. But I wanted to ask him about his mom because it was Mother's Day. And he started crying because he hadn't seen her in 3 years because she was in another country. So those are the things. And he's like, when I play, I know she's watching me from home. See, it only took 3 questions to open him up, and people can relate to him as a person, not as a baseball player. And maybe that's what I like to do and haven't been able to do, but I try to do it as much as I can when I interview a baseball player because, again, I always been someone. It's not what you do, it's who you are. So you can be this, you can be that, you can work here, you can work there, but it's who you are. People might forget what you tell them, but they won't forget what how you make them feel. It's corny, but it's 100% the truth. I might be like, oh, now in WBC, I'm like, that lady. Oh, let me step away from her because I don't know what she told me, but she gave me bad vibes. And now she's saying hi. I'm like, okay, all right. But
hello.
yeah, hi.
It's
I
it's
think it's a truth that people don't talk about. They expect everything's perfect. It's a perfect journey, and it's not. It's been like this and down, and some days you're like, what am I doing? Do you give up? Do you not give up? Because again, if people don't get you, you don't understand you, you're lonely because I mean, I don't say lonely, I say you're alone because I can be alone and your mind is everywhere, but it's your vision, it's what you see. It's that's what I tell people. It's hard to explain. It's a vibe thing.
yeah.
So
No, it is in a sense. It's in intuition again. We're going back to like the
yeah,
mind. It's in between the ears.
exactly.
Did you ever have like some like a time that you're like, oh, should I ask this question? Did you have to like, because asking somebody and an athlete,
Yeah.
especially when they're at work, you're kind of right in there. Was it ever hard for you to kind of like, hey, excuse me, can you like
Yeah, it
was that
still
ever
is. I'm
really?
still kind of like, they might say no, yes, because you're like, "Hi, can I have a minute?" No, no, okay. Oh, he said no. Let me get another one. For Mother's Day, there was a player. We had all these players, and there was a list. And there was one. My boss is like, "Oh, you can get as many as you want because maybe one gives you a better answer than the other." Okay. So I saw a guy from the Marlins, and I was like, "Oh, let me ask him." So I'm like, "Oh, fulanito tal, can I do an interview on Mother's Day?" And he was kind of like, "No, I don't want to." I'm like, "No, it's okay." And then I was like, "All right." I didn't think nothing of it. And 5 minutes later, he came back around and he's like, look, it's that my mom passed away. So I don't feel good. And I was like, trágame tierra. But it's things that you don't know. If you don't ask, you
Yeah.
don't know. And I know from now on, we cannot ask him about Mother's Day. But
Mm,
it's those things that we're human. I've also been to players and the mic doesn't work again. And you're like, it's things that happen, right? You're not a machine either.
oh
But
man, that it's hard. It's hard. Like this, especially going so quick, right? Like things are happening fast,
yes,
right? Like
yeah.
you're moving quick. You got to make. Are you prepping those questions like? beforehand? Are all those questions prepped, or sometimes you're freestyling at certain times, or?
Yes. Like throughout, I can say my freelance career and my career, I've always liked to prepare. I think that's part people thinking like you just go there and interview. Like, no, like when I had to do your interview, I looked you up. I made sure everything with the dates,
Mhm.
you have to have everything correct because you also want to look like you know what you're saying, right?
Mhm.
What questions you could ask, what questions that you don't ask. Social media now is good because you can go on Instagram. Oh, Fulanito likes to sing. Let me ask him about singing. He likes to do this. Okay. So I think you always have to prepare yourself. Again, things can go one way in an interview. I can ask a question and I can tell he didn't like it. So you skip the next question. It's a vibe thing. What I tell
Yeah.
people is I feel it shouldn't be an interview. We're having a conversation.
Yeah.
And some people have this one, two, three. No, like just go with it. And a player might say yes, and a player might say no. Don't take it personally either. It's hard though because you know you put up the courage like, hi, can I have 5 minutes? And they're like, for
Mhm.
what? And you're like, but I'm like, no, stand tall. I'm here. I deserve to be here, and I can ask the question too.
Yeah.
I also think like sometimes you get nervous, but I'm like, they're nervous too. You don't know what you're gonna ask. That's why you tell them, I'm gonna ask this, and if you don't like it, you don't have to answer it. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah. And a lot of them too, when I talk to them, you want it in English or Spanish? And I've seen so many like, you speak Spanish? I'm like, ay, sí, ahora puedo, okay, puedo contestarte mejor. I can be myself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Déjame decirte
and
lo
they
que
just
quiero
like
decir.
it's
Yeah,
like a guard down, and they're like, okay. So I'm like, it's so important to speak their native language because I've also seen interviews where it's translated. I'm like, he did not say that in English, but okay, you want to translate it like that because and it loses the essence, Willie, because you can say like this game means a lot to me because X X, and then when it's translated, it doesn't sound right. That's
it's
why I think it's important to when you're interviewing a player, hopefully there's more Spanish speaking. I know Latinos need to learn more English because they are in America's pastime.
yeah,
It's baseball.
yeah,
But I think in essence, we also have to understand them because I'm sure your journey was very different from someone from Venezuela, someone from
yeah,
Colombia,
yeah.
and people forget that. Like you should be grateful you're here. I get it, but now that he's here and he's great, let's help him in this aspect, right?
Yeah, but let's think about it in a business perspective too, Nicole. Like
A hundred
you're
percent.
getting so much more of the world involved. Like Acuna doing an interview,
Yep,
and everybody at home being able to understand what he's saying is is awesome.
exactly.
You know what
Yep,
I'm saying? Or
yeah,
let's say Vladdy Jr. saying something in Spanish
yep,
is big for everybody. I mean, there's
yep,
plenty of people that can translate it to English here, right? Like,
yep.
if you want to figure it out, they can figure it out here. But maybe over there, everybody doesn't have the access to find
Correct.
it,
Yeah,
translated. Like those things are okay.
yep,
Let them talk in Spanish and to get into it more. You know what I love
yep.
to see, Nicole, when they talk to the translator. Like you see
Yeah,
the emotion
yeah,
when they're talking to the
yeah,
translator because the way they're answering the question, then the way the translator says it too, it's like
yeah.
that's not at all what he said again. It's the same way both ways, I think. It's like
Exactly. I also know it's in the spur in the moment. It's an interview. It can be 2 minutes, and the translator. Look, something happens to me. My brain thinks in English. I speak both languages, but sometimes, how do I say this in Spanish? Or I get confused with Spanish and English. Like, wait, what? So I get it, but I think it's important to stay the essence of the player, and I
yeah,
think that's
yeah.
what we saw in WBC. Like
Oh
these
yeah.
players were with their media. They're all talking Spanish, and
Yeah.
yeah,
What what does it mean to think in everybody asks me that question. You think in English?
yes.
How do
My
you what
first
do you mean?
language is English. I don't know. I don't. Have you traveled abroad to other countries,
Of course.
like
Yeah.
South
A lot.
America?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I can have a I mean, I have conversations and I can write in Spanish, but for me, is how do I say this in Spanish?
Really?
Yes.
But you're
And
like
look, at
fluent
home,
as fluent. Yeah,
but
you've
it took
always
time. Like my parents at home when we were younger, my sister and I, she's like, only español en la casa. And when you're young, look, I think that's one of the reasons why I wrote a bilingual book.
uh-huh.
I'm like, why do I have to speak Spanish? My sister and I would be like, let's talk in English and not talk Spanish. Because you're born here, Willie. And I would see, like,
Yeah.
I would get books in the library and no one looked like me. It was the typical American girl with
Yeah.
green eyes, right? So I wanted to speak English. That was my language. I'm American. And then when we would go to Colombia, and I would see Bob La Esponja, not SpongeBob Square. What? My cousin like, it's Bob La Esponja. I'm like, no, it's SpongeBob SquarePants. I mean, she's like, yeah. Tom and Jerry was like, Jerry no sé qué. I'm like, wait, what? But so at a young age, I was like, okay, there's more languages. It could be translated. Traveling abroad too. When I was little, we would go to Colombia, Dominican Republic, to Mexico, and I was like, okay, so life isn't just Miami, right? I
Mhm.
think that also expanded my mind. Like when I have kids, the more you travel when you're young, it expands your mind. It makes you appreciate more what you have. And then as you get older, when I got to college and I wanted to be a journalist, like, do you know another language? I'm like, there's kids here taking Spanish. Like, maybe I need to, I mean, I could have a conversation, but I should polish it. And I've gotten more opportunities because I'm bilingual. I work now with MLB in the Spanish department. My job is in Spanish.
Wow.
Every day I'm posting on Yankees baseball or Los Mets in Spanish. And sometimes I'm like, I want to say this phrase in English, but I'm like, it doesn't sound right in Spanish. So I asked the guy, can you help me? How do I rephrase it? Because I think in English, I don't know, it's my first language. But when I did the book, I'm like, I want to make it bilingual because I think that our new generation, at least for me, I think I say I love, I sing in two languages. I can be listening to Osuna and then go to another one in English. Like it's just how my brain works. I can
Yeah.
listen to Kane Brown and Osuna in 3 minutes because it's just
Yo,
who I
that's
am.
crazy.
I went to the Kane Brown
Isn't
concert and then I was like, yeah, let's go to Osuna or another one because it's
whatever.
appreciate more who we are because of where we come from. And I think when we're younger, we're kind of like, no, we're this, and
Yeah.
I've been to Alabama because I have family there and I feel like I'm looked at or it's a funky vibe because I'm not from Alabama. And you're like, wait, but I'm from here. Like, it makes you,
Yeah, yeah.
Miami is his own world. I get it. But it's who you are. I'm sure when you were playing baseball, you went to small towns and they're like, Willie, where are you from?
Oh,
Miami?
I've gotten so many I've gotten everything in the book. Like, are you this? Are you that? Everybody wants to guess, and I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm Cuban. They're like, Cuban? What's that?
yeah.
Like, people don't even know what Cuban
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
Like, some
100%. Yeah, yeah. They tell me, "Are
like,
you Dominican or are you Mexican?" And you're like, "No, Colombia." What? I'm like, "Colombia, South America." You don't I
huh?
sometimes you shouldn't get offended, but sometimes I'm like, you kind of should know where the world has a lot of countries, you know?
No, but like, I think we were spoiled though, right? Because like,
We are. Yeah, we were.
we already knew every like there were honestly the I don't know what's the Hispanic culture that is least represented in Miami. Might be like Mexican,
Who
maybe.
knows? I don't know. I think Miami
Or,
has such a good mix of everything.
yeah, like it had, and I said that to just because, but
Just
like,
to say it, but maybe not. I don't know.
but maybe not. It's
Maybe not.
it's such a melting pot that we
It
knew
is.
every different type of
Yeah.
nationality,
I know
but
I can
everywhere
have
else,
Cuban for lunch and Mexican for
yeah,
dinner, or next day
yep,
Nicaraguense, like we're spoiled. But a lot of
everything.
people don't have that. Even going to New York, they're like, "Where are you from?" Tú no eres aquí. And I'm like, "Well, I'm from Miami." Oh, you're from Miami. It's interesting though. But I guess now as an adult, you analyze more, you think more things differently. But when I was 15 and I would go to Alabama, it was hard. I'm like, I don't want to be here. I want to go home. But my cousins, they still live there and they grew up there. But it's an interesting dynamic.
Nicole, do you speak in different Spanishes depending on who you're speaking to?
Maybe like little words come out. One of my things once I get like only some friends know, I like to do like accents. So when they tell me like, oh, you're not Colombian, I'm like, ¿por qué no hablo como así? They're like, sí. I'm like, no, this is Medellín. En Barranquilla no se habla así, es la costa. But they're like, you're not Colombian because you don't speak like Carol G. I'm like, ah, Ave María, pues. Ay, gordo. You see?
Yo, that was
So yeah,
good.
I like to do accents. Yeah. But yeah, I think
Oh,
once with your friends, like, all my friends are mostly, a lot of them are American born and Cuban family. And you're like, oh, people, que hola.
yeah,
It
qué vuelta.
comes out, que vuelta,
Yeah.
said it. It just comes out. And then when you're with your Colombians, or when I spend time in Colombia, a lot of words catch on and then I'm wait on my brain. Now in Miami, I can't say those words because they're going to be like, what? Or like the music, it's interesting.
Yeah. No, I love that because I always, especially in baseball, like there's all
Yeah,
different types, and I just start picking up the accents. I'm talking Dominican
yeah,
one day, Puerto Rican with the Puerto
exactly.
Ricans,
¿Qué lo que, Willie? ¿Qué lo que?
and yeah, yeah, okay. No, it's hilarious, but it's so cool to see from your side. I know you kind of hit on the Hispanic players like speaking English. Is I just saw a video. It's funny we said Acuna. I saw a video of him speaking English. Like, what is it that is it a good feeling to see all those players that you've seen basically grow up over the last 10 years, right? Like speaking English. Like, is that
I
like super super cool for you to see?
I think so because it's also like a step for them. A lot of the times when I've interviewed them and they're like, when I was in the minor leagues and we were in the middle, like Kansas, I'm like, how did you ask for food si no sabías inglés? He's like, we all went to Chipotle and rice, beans, chicken. A lot of them, he says it laughing, but a lot of these players from each nationality, different teams, they're like, no sabíamos nada de inglés. We knew chipotle, arroz, pollo, y frijol,
Yeah.
rice, beans, chicken, and like guac, guac, okay. And he's like, for us, we ate. Or sometimes maybe in a team of 30, uh, five didn't speak English, and then one would take them. So that was, being a good teammate. But it was hard for them. Some of them, he's like, I would eat rice, beans, and chicken for a whole week, and I'm like, okay, what else do I have to find? But it was hard for them, right? And now when you see these big players speaking English, and some of them they might not say it 100% right, their big accent, but they're trying. And I think it's important for the younger generation to see that. A kid from DR who sees a player like him speaking English, okay, I'm in single A, but it's going to give me time to learn English. And when I get there, not be scared or be embarrassed to speak English.
You just brought up some crazy memories because of course being bilingual, I used to be
Mhm.
able to help a lot of those guys, like especially starting in rookie ball, and I would see them get better, right,
Yes.
as the time went on. Like then in low A they were a little better than in high. Next thing you know, in
Wow.
double A they never call you for any help anymore. They
Yeah.
got it. But it's funny because I remember being in low A. I was in Asheville, North Carolina.
Wow.
Like nobody even knows what Spanish is. Like you're in the middle of
Wow.
nowhere, like a gorgeous place, but there's not many Hispanics. Sure enough, one of my buddies at like 11 o'clock at night calls me and goes, Oye, Willie, oye, ¿puedes venir a Walmart? Necesito
Wow.
ayuda. Estoy tratando de conectar el teléfono otra vez, pero no me están entendiendo en el Walmart.
Oh my
And I
God, look,
go,
I got it. What?
yo, I get in my car, get over there, and I'm helping this kid literally just be able to get on the phone that night because kids want to talk to their parents after a game. And I simply just went to ask the employee to get the card, right? I don't even think they do
The
the
SIM
cards
card,
anymore.
yeah.
The SIM card to get the money on the prepaid plan because they all have
Wow.
different numbers here, over there. Every year they get a new number because they get a different SIM
Hmm.
card. And sure enough, just to get the kid to turn on his phone with a prepaid that we can go, me and you would just go
Yeah.
to Walmart, swipe the card.
Hmm.
Hey, can you put $20 in here? Boom,
And
put
that's
it in
it.
your phone and it's over. But for him, it was so hard. And he like called me out of my house to go over there at
Wow.
11:30 just to buy a SIM card, to buy the right SIM card.
That's
It's like
crazy.
it's the
But
little
it's so
things that
awesome you did that because I'm sure there's other guys who wouldn't do that or haven't done it or won't do that. Like, oh, you're here, you should figure out yourself. So it
yeah,
was nice that you did that. That's why I'm saying like manifestation or you had to be there in that moment. Maybe you were in that team to help that one
for a
guy,
reason.
right? Sometimes you're like,
Oh,
oh, why am I here? But if it weren't for you, he wouldn't be able to call his mom or eat maybe the next day or for the whole season. I'm sure in the moment it's hard to see that, but sometimes I'm even like, why am I here? Look, in WBC it wasn't easy. There was a couple. It was not to say too much, but it was hard for me to be there to see a couple people who were mean to me. Let's just put it like that. And
mhm.
the first day I'm in the stadium, I'm trying to enjoy the moment, and I go into the bathroom, and I'm like, why does this moment have to be covered by this? But I'm like, no, I'm here for a reason, right? And if that person's okay, why do I have to be? You know what? Let me enjoy it. And maybe I'm like talking to, I'm like, God, universe, whatever, you put me here, and why? But it did make me stronger, but that made that week harder because you're working, but you're thinking, you're this, and no one knows what's going on, right? But again, lonely, alone, but you're there. And when I finished, like I got home that day and I was crying because I'm like, okay, I got to experience this amazing experience professionally, but personally, like, wow, like I did it, and those are the things why in the moment, but you had to be in that moment for that guy. And I'm sure you did it for other players. So on behalf of them, thank you. Because I'm sure maybe a lot of them, no, but for real, for them, maybe it's hard. Maybe it was harder for them to ask for help
to
than
make
to
that call.
play. Exactly. Than to play because they know baseball works, this, and that, but to ask for help is hard. And you were there.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't do that, Willie. So I'm glad
No,
you
that,
were
yeah,
there.
again, that thank you. I appreciate that. I don't like to talk about myself. I get uncomfortable, like, but it was a great experience. It was cool, but I think being able to, I think people need to help others more. Like,
Yes.
I don't think things have right. Like journeys are alone. Like we do have all
Hmm.
these journeys that we do take alone, but everything, like, it's there's always plus and minuses, right? Like you wouldn't be so good at what you do if you didn't have people to talk to. Athletes wouldn't be as big as they are if there weren't people to watch the games. Like
True.
hitters wouldn't hit home runs if pitchers didn't throw,
Yeah.
and it's just like the yin and the yang kind of thing, there's
Correct.
there's always two sides to something. So
Hmm.
if we just show more like grace, not, yeah, I think grace is
Yeah.
a good word.
Great.
Like you even said at the beginning, like, yeah,
Respect,
having grace and
empathy.
like respect, empathy, like all those things, and just love, just show love, man. Like show love to
Exactly.
each other, and just
Yeah.
something that simple, you can change people's lives doing that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like like even it's funny. I want to talk a little bit more about your nonprofit because you told me that story of um of seeing the player like be successful, and like now he's
Yeah.
actually playing and being a pro. Like when when you were like, what are some of the toughest things that you've had to see when going to, all these countries? Like I'd love for you to like share some of those tough times, because I think it can help bring light to what's happening in these countries
Hmm.
that people don't really realize here in the US.
Exactly. I think that's one of the reasons I also wrote the book, to kind of showcase of a little boy who had a dream of playing in the big leagues, and he's from Colombia. So I think the book is a mixture of my profession, my foundation, but it's also like for people to educate people, right? That's why I mentioned going back to baseball, because baseball gives so many opportunities to people who have nothing. Like I've gone to small towns in Colombia where kids share a room with their two siblings, and I don't know, it's really tough what I've seen of people how they live, and he's just happy he's playing baseball. When I take a new baseball, kids start crying because they've never seen a new baseball. Their baseball is beat up, or they have it with tape. When I take out my phone, I like to do selfies. They go crazy because they've never seen an iPhone. You know, there's a lot of small towns who are remote. There's a lot of small towns who some kids are well off. Their parents are well off, but it still doesn't mean that they can afford a baseball bat, right? We can go here to Dick's Sporting Goods, and whether your dad has the money or not, credit card, ka-ching, new baseball bat. But these kids who came out of nothing, like there's towns that are 5, 6 hours that I've driven to from the big city. So how do they go to practice, they go to school. Sometimes parents send them off to cities across the country so they can play baseball and have the opportunity. And then from there, sometimes they go to Dominicana. And then from Dominicana, they come to it's a lot. And I think it's important to know where kids come from. And that's why I say a lot of these kids play for their family. A lot of these players, when they make it, they have their big contracts. What's the first thing they do? I bought my mom a house. Here, what did you buy? I bought myself a diamond ring or diamond watch, which is fine. It's understandable, but it's
Yeah.
just, I think that's what makes maybe a Latino player or maybe even Asian player from wherever they're from, it makes it a little special for them, like an extra, I say pizzazz, because they worked the triple. I'm not taking away from players from here, but it's just when you see they have their house is falling apart and their dream is to make it because I'm gonna buy my mom a house when I make it, and they do it. Like those are the things that make you appreciate more. And I'm like, that's why I love the game. And WBC was such international because I think people saw that. Where did maybe we don't know where all these players come from. Look, Sandy is one. I think he was one of many siblings. His parents sent them off to the capital, which is hours away from where his small town was. And I think he grew up mostly with his sister, not his mom, but that was part of the dream. And now look at him when he plays, that's why I think it's important, and I wish players could see that. I think yesterday there was I don't want to know what team, I think it was Kansas. I'm gonna send you this video. They sent a couple of their minor league players to Dominicana to
Mhm.
interact with, either their teammates or kids from Dominicana. And these guys were like, wow, now I appreciate my teammate more. I see where he comes from. I understand why he doesn't speak English, why I should help him. And I saw the video, I was like, wow, because it makes you appreciate more your teammates. Why are they playing harder? Why are they playing injured, but they don't say anything, but it's because they want to be on the team. So it's just, that's why I say everyone has a story. And again, I say again, but you were there to help that guy. And some people don't see that, right? It's your journey, but I think on your journey, you're supposed to help others, and you've helped a lot along your way. So that's why I keep saying that you were there for the
What
kid.
what do you think? What's been the best part of your story so far? You think, like, what part were you like, this was a turning point for me? Like, this was where I think really made a huge impact on your life.
um, oh, that's a good question. Like I say, I'm really hard on myself, and I think I am where I want to be, but I don't. Like, it's a struggle now, right? So I think now
You don't
I
think
think
you made it. You don't think you've made it.
no, no, I don't think so. There's so much more to do, so much more to see, so much more. Maybe one day when I get to say I bought my house, like I've worked
Mhm.
so hard for this. Like, you get me? Like, I love I wish I can travel more, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not there yet.
Ah,
You
I beg
know,
to differ. I beg to differ. I don't
with the,
think, and now I don't mean to, like, I guess, say like you're wrong, but you are wrong. Like, you've impacted. I'm sorry, you're wrong. Like, you've made it. Like, you've changed people's lives, Nicole.
yeah,
Like, changing people's lives isn't monetary, isn't
no,
title driven. Like, you don't have to be the whatever of MLB, or you don't. It doesn't
correct.
matter.
Yeah,
Like, it's not how much a book sales. It's how
exactly.
many people you impact, and like the amount of people that you've been able to impact over still short career, 10
Yeah,
years. I mean,
yeah,
you have
yeah,
so many more years to go. Like, you've done crazy amounts of differences in people's lives, and there's people that work 40, 50, 60 years and don't
yeah,
impact the people that you have. Like, you're not hiding.
yeah.
You're not hiding like this. It's funny because we started an hour ago now, and that's kind of one of
Oh
the things.
wow,
Like, you have
what
to
now?
put yourself out there. You have to put yourself out there, and you, since the beginning, you put yourself out there, and you've
Yeah.
changed people's lives. So if anybody ever asks you if you've done if you've done something that is like life changing, you really have.
Yeah,
I mean, you're just obviously humble, very humble about it, but, like, I mean, you told me so many stories about kids that
yeah,
you've actually seen them, like, smile from a baseball. Like, I
yeah,
haven't gone to give somebody a base. I'm lying. I've given baseballs in other countries, but there's a lot of people that haven't, and
yeah.
they have plenty of brand new baseballs.
I
So
think
the fact.
I think what you're saying is, I don't mean to cut you off. I
Go
I
ahead.
do see that. It's just, it's hard, Willie. Like, when you ask help for yourself is hard, but asking for others is harder. So I know the impact that I've made it. And when I'm with those kids, there's nothing in the world, no amount of money that can compare to that. Because these kids give me something that no one else can give me. It's a love that is unspoken, right? But it's been a hard journey. It's not easy because, like I mentioned, if it's hard asking help for yourself, even more for others, I put a lot of my money, a lot of my time and sweat, which I don't mind. Like, if I die tomorrow, I'll die a happy person. I didn't have a husband or all the things that you're supposed to have, but I've helped others, and I've gone to places and things like that. But it's a hard journey. So I guess maybe I'm not complacent because maybe all this time I've given so much back to others, and it's hard sometimes to give back to yourself. So now I'm giving more back to myself. I don't know. It's interesting. I started my nonprofit to help others because I love helping others, and I don't know. I think maybe I was born with it, and I don't regret nothing. But now it's a point in my life, like my stability is important too, financial stability, emotional stability, all that. So it's an interesting dynamic. But I also hope, because without re- expecting something in return, so many people in this world, and I've also seen it, it's kind of discouraging. They give with another plan, and those that give with a good heart get, stepped on. So it's interesting, maybe because they've seen so much of both sides of sports, both sides of philanthropy. Sometimes I guess, or maybe I'm in a point in my life that you're kind of like, okay, where is this gonna go? Or I don't know. It's a tricky. Maybe where I'm at is a little fuzzy, but it's an interesting dynamic.
What do you? I know you kind of hit on it, and if you don't mind me asking, like, what exactly are you doing now to like change and give yourself back more time? Because on a personal level, I'm sure it's draining at times, right?
Yes, that's what it is. And then a lot of people, they expect you to always give. Sometimes I get texts like, "Did you get my application? Sí, señor. In a couple of months, I'll reach out." I pay $180 from my check every month for storage. A lot of times I send things from my money. I don't mind. Again, I don't mind. But
Yeah.
I'm getting dry, and I'm like, I have to set boundaries. Now I need to think more of me, because no one thinks about me. If you're having a bad day, no one texts you. But when they want help or they need something, they ask away. Hey, I'm like, okay. So it's an interesting, right? I don't, that's why I'm saying chapters in life, or I don't know. It's just when you start looking back more. So lately I started doing acupuncture. That's been an interesting dynamic. But what I told the ladies, like, I came back here like two separate Nicoles, and now she's making me one again. So, because you have to go back to you. You can't give out of an empty cup. You have to fill yourself up too. And
Dang, and
yeah.
acupuncture is helping you with that? That's
Well,
crazy.
I think it's part of it, not all of
Okay.
it, but I think making the step to making more time for me. I've only gone 4 times in the last 4 months. Last year too, I'm a person who holds a lot in, and when it comes out, you're like, okay, it needs to come out.
Hmm.
Not to get too much detail, I had a problem with someone, and I didn't want to say something at work, and I actually did, and I think it's important to speak up. I think sometimes you want to stay quiet, and I'm a good person, I'm a good person, but sometimes you're a good person, you get stepped on. So I'm like, if you don't speak up for yourself, if you don't knock on the door, if you don't do something, anything for yourself, no one else will. So that's why it's been an interesting, I guess, 2 years. Like, it's been a transition in speaking up and putting your health first. And I don't know, it's been an interesting transition.
So it's funny because I almost said like it's you've been so selfless, like you've
Yeah.
only been like giving, 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 and it's like it's now time and in the nicest way possible, be a little bit more selfish, like with your energy.
Yes.
Because Nicole, imagine like if you give to yourself as much as you give to others.
Yeah.
I think about that all the time. I'm like, man, I imagine if I gave the effort I give to others to myself, like how much
Yeah.
better I can make myself. But then
100%.
but do you still tiptoe back into that water of like, yeah, but like doing
Yeah.
things for others, like
It's a
I
part of me, right? I'm not gonna say 100% I'm being like stopping from
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
But now it's coming more with, okay, take a step back and realizing more what I can do, what I can do, and it's okay to be selfish. I think of someone who gives so careless, like, I just give time, energy, whatever you need, but I need to step back. And I think also there's a misconception of people who give to others, but no one gives to you, right? Like, they think you're okay. That's what I'm saying. Like, no one says, "Hey, are you okay?" I don't think people understand that the people who give to others also need people there for themselves, right? Because Nicole gives to everyone, and Nicole's great, and I don't do it for that. I do it for me, right? What fills my
Yeah.
cup is being with these kids. I went to Honduras last year, and that was impactful too, because that's poverty on another level. It was like, but again, they're like, what you did was wonderful, 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 but check up on a friend that gives to others. Check up on a friend who's always there for others, not just to help, like, nonprofit wise, but for you
Wow,
wise.
man.
I think
Uh,
that's something people don't, now I'm not saying like nothing mental illness or anything, but I'm saying now people who talk more about it, why are all the happy people the ones who unfortunately take the step to end their life because no one checks up on them, right? So I think it's also important to, and even in sports, like they might see you might be hitting the best, have the best season of your year, but has someone asked you how are you doing, right? No one does that.
no, but they want an autograph. They want this. They want a ticket. They
Exactly.
want that. But like nobody asks you, like, hey, are you all right? Are you feeling
Exactly.
okay?
How's your day going? How's your day going, Willie?
Wow. I'm
It's
tired. Honestly, I'm exhausted. I don't know about you. I'm not sure. Are you tired? 'Cause I've
well,
had a
today's
long
my
day.
day off, and I've had a lunch with a friend. I'm being more self,
There
pouring
you
more into my
go.
cup. I was looking forward to this interview,
There you go.
you know, taking more for me. But it's hard too. And at work, when I sit at my job, I appreciate where I'm at, but I'm not 100% happy where I'm at. I want more. And it's so hard because I've knocked on so many doors. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You have to wait your turn. Nothing happens overnight. But I'm like, I felt like I paid my dues and I think I should be there. I don't know what's there yet, but I'm like, ugh. Like when you feel it, like here.
Yo, you know what's crazy? It's. I was just talking with one of my buddies that helps me actually with the podcast a lot, man. And we were talking about we've knocked on a lot of doors, like, and we've gotten shut down a bunch, right? And you try to sell yourself to people and say, hey, listen, we could do this, we could do that. But I think it's just gotten to a point. But I think you said this earlier too. It's like you just got to do it on your own sometimes, like
Yeah,
almost like take your own, like, all right, you said no, that's fine. Now I'm gonna
exactly.
like you said, I'm gonna prove it to you another way. Like I'll do it. I'll do it myself. I'll do it myself, and then it's gonna
Exactly.
be, and then when they come knocking back,
Yeah.
it's like might
Sorry, the
be
door's
too late.
closed.
Yeah, sorry about it. But you know what happens? Of course, it's us, and we'll be like, yeah, sure. Go
Okay.
ahead. All right, fine.
I'll
Let's
get
go.
you a
I'll help you
chair.
out. I'll help you out. Of course. Like, damn. And then you say, I wish somebody would have helped me out like that. I wish
Yep.
somebody would have gave me a
Well, look,
chair.
I'm gonna be honest now with the book. A lot of people, oh my God, it's so great, it's wonderful. But I've gotten a lot of people, how did you do it? Tell me everything. I'm like, I spent months on YouTube, months reading. I had a close friend, she helped me a lot, but I couldn't bug her tampoco. It's my journey.
Yeah, it's you.
I'm
It's
like, people
you.
think it was made overnight. No, 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 it was the audacity. And people are like, you can inspire others with your story. Pero ven acá. Exactly. Wait, what? Yeah, it's interesting.
What
Como
was
dicen, qué descarado.
wow, man. No, it's
A
so
lot of
true.
people, a lot of people. And look, even now with WBC, I've met a lot of people, try to network as much as they can, and a couple people that maybe you don't expect, or your intuition. I'm like, should I ask this reporter? I don't know. Hey, let me ask him. I talked to him about the book. I'm gonna send out a tweet. Maravilloso. I also had the same idea. Wonderful. Wonderful. He never sent out the tweet. I sent out a tweet, didn't respond. Okay. So that just shows you it doesn't matter where people are or who can help you. You have to not. You know how many tweets DM tweets I've sent out, like more than 200 people who are coworkers or people that I know on LinkedIn. When I came out in my school newsletter, I reached out to a lady, then followed up 2 weeks later. People, I saw you on Univision, amazing. I reached out to someone, Fulanita reached out to the other one. I waited 2 months. It's people think it's
No,
no,
no, yeah, they think it happens overnight. Like it's like,
it's
oh
not.
yeah,
It's not like that. Oh my God, you're so lucky. So lucky, girl. I've been
lucky. Don't talk to me about luck. No, no, no,
I've
no,
sent
no.
99, 100 emails and 1% has written back. Other people have left me on blank, on like red, and they don't even answer. It's part of it. It's hard. It's part of it, but it's hard. It's an interesting because I'm like, you also have to be your PR brand. You have to do so many things. But I'm like, if you don't do it for you, no one else is gonna do it. Going back to it. And some days, I tell you, some days I feel unmotivated. I'm like, whatever. Should I pause? I don't care. And then you're like, come on, if I don't do it, then no one
Dale,
else
dale,
will.
dale, dale.
But it's normal. I think it's important to talk about having these two. You want to Netflix and chill, you Netflix. Your brain sometimes needs to. If I sometimes I go out to the beach and I'm just sitting there, not even just take it in. You sometimes you need that too, because I think we're hard on ourselves. We want more. We want
Yeah.
wait, take a step back, take a step back. And that's when I saw your podcast. I was like, look at Willie doing his thing. And look, I sent you a message because I'm like, I feel like a proud older sister. Like, he's doing his thing because you're so natural. Like, no one has to put you in a box. So you're a base of no, no, no. You're so much more than that.
Thank you.
So I
Thank you,
applaud
man.
you for taking the step and keep going. And
Oh, thank you so much. I'm
it's
sorry for
hard.
yeah, I'm sorry for taking so much of your time though. I didn't
No, no, you were in my schedule for
uh,
the week. I was like, Friday is Willie Day.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so tell me what's next? Like what's the next step? Because I know you keep talking about, oh, you want to get, and you don't have to talk about work because obviously it is what it is, but like what's your next goal? Let's talk about anything other than work, right? Like talk about you,
Um,
Nicole. What does Nicole want next?
For me, I want to travel more. Like I've
Where?
had France,
Where?
like
Where? Where?
I've had
France?
Paris on my wall for like pre-pandemic. I'm like, I just want to go to Eiffel Tower and pop champagne bottle and say like, you know, exactly in front of the we.
So,
Because
oui, oui.
it's been a dream of mine since I was little. I've been to Europe, but I've never been to Paris. And people are like, it's dirty. I'm like, I don't
I
care.
want to
Like
see how dirty it is.
right? Like maybe it's romantic, it's just it's something that I've been wanting to travel more because I love to travel more. And for me, I don't travel enough because it's a little poquito,
Yeah.
just a
Yeah.
little.
So we've
But
heard.
I'm
Yeah.
like, I want to. The more you travel, the more you. It's crazy, but you do find yourself. You do experience things. I remember going to Germany and I didn't speak. I went to a restaurant. The guy didn't speak English. I didn't speak German. I'm like, ¿Cómo voy a comer aquí, Dios mío? I'm like, okay, sir, number one. I'm like, I feel like the guys from the store. And he's like, and I ordered
Yeah.
and I ate that burrito like it was heaven.
Riquísimo. Yeah. Yeah. It's
I was
great.
like, I ordered with sign language. But those are the things that no one can give you that. Those are the things that you take with you, Willie. Like in that moment, you have to survive survival mode. You're
Yeah. Let's
hungry.
get it done. I'm hungry. I'm eating.
Those are the things that I don't know. I want to experience more life through traveling. And I want to take my book to book fairs, whether it's in another country, whether I applied for the Miami Book Fair. So let's see,
When do you
putting
find out?
myself
When do
in.
you find out?
I think it's like June, July. I'll give you the
Uh-oh.
breaking news.
There we go. There we go. And we could go. I'll go to the book fair too. My fiance reads endless. I don't know if I should take her to the book fair because then we never leave. But no, that's so cool, man. No, you're gonna kill it. You're killing it already.
So
You've
hopefully,
done, and you know what? I was talking with Ricky again about. I think, do you ever put yourself as like an outsider in places? Like, do you ever think you're an outsider?
100%. More than you could think so. You're like, oh, I should belong here, but you're like, I don't. I don't know. That's why I think like we've talked for so long, but it's I think because we connect like minds, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's so hard to meet people that
That think the
understand
same.
you
Yeah.
exactly. Or sometimes I'm walking, I'm like, oh, the sun looks nice. People don't appreciate the sun. People don't, I think the details in life matter so much. And people don't, a lot of people nowadays don't. They're like an automatic mode. Da, 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 da. So it's hard to find people who you can vibe with,
Yeah.
you know?
And I it's funny because I don't know if that was a loaded question or not, but I feel that as well. And
Hmm.
I don't think, if we start to realize like that we're special instead of that we don't belong, that now that we're special, like special people. Because again, I look up to people, right? I've looked up to a lot of people, and I see people that I admire, and they're at the top of their game, but in a sense they've been in it for 20, 30 years. So the special people like us, people around our age, look where we are in 10 years now. In another 10 years, it's like we're going to continue to be those people that people look up to, but we
Yeah,
don't see it
it's
now because
crazy. Yeah,
you're
we
right in the
don't.
middle. You don't see it.
Yeah,
You see things from a different angle. We see things from a different angle. That's why
yeah,
we put ourselves in the position that we do.
correct.
Like
100%. And
we're
I
kind
think
of
that's with the loaded question, like, comes to me for dating. It's so hard to find a guy who gets it. I've had guys like, "Where do you have a nonprofit? Why do you like baseball? Baseball's boring." I'm like, "I can he shut up that baseball is boring? I get it. You don't like it, but oh yeah, people really like
yeah.
or guys who you have a conversation with and then they don't reciprocate it. They just ghost you. I'm like nowadays people like to ghost. Like, can you just have the human decency? Hey Nicole, I don't like you. Hey Nicole, I don't appreciate it. Hey Nicole, we're different pages. It's just
Whatever,
I can
anything.
write a Netflix series with all my ghosting stories. Like, oh my, I'm like really, it's just so disappointing. But again, and then it's like, should I change? But I don't want to change. The guy who's losing is him. He's not appreciating the unique, I guess, unique with a K, that we are unique with a K.
There you go. There you
That
go.
we are, right? But it's hard. It's really hard. I'm like, and I've had people, oh my God, Nicole, you're the perfect package. I'm like, yeah, but apparently for men who have girlfriends or are married, but the single ones don't, I don't get it.
Yeah, because they're normal,
No,
Nicole. Like you're not normal. Like
you're right.
we're not normal people. Like you just it's okay. Like it's okay not to be normal. Like, but everybody else puts themselves in that box, right? And they don't get out of that box, and that's fine. But we have to go again. I say it like this:
You're
like
right.
we're probably crazy. Like
But
we're
yeah,
what other people call crazy,
but the
insane.
crazy ones are the ones who change the world.
Exactly. But you got to be a little crazy to change the world. You got to be a
Yeah,
little crazy. And we're not here. We're here for a bigger purpose. I
you're
believe it.
right. A
I
hundred
believe that
percent.
people like us, um, like God put us in this world for a different reason.
Yeah,
And we have a lot of scars, obviously.
yeah,
Like you have to
yeah.
get those scars. And those battle scars are they dang, bro, I'm about to cry.
No,
But
yeah, yeah. I'm also trying not to.
but but the scars might not be for they make us stronger,
Yeah,
but I think they're also going to allow us to then help people even more, like
yeah.
even more than we already have, if that makes
100%.
sense.
It does, but in the moment it's hard and it's
It is, it
frustrating.
is, it is.
And
It
I'm
sucks.
learning to accept it and like this sucks. And you're like, why? Why? You know?
Yeah, yeah.
But I think it's a learning process, like you say,
Hmm.
taking it in because I've had a lot of like tests and you're like, damn it, like why are you testing me so hard? Like why?
Yeah.
But everyone's give time, which that's my quote of the year. But I'm like, I don't want to give time anymore, you know? Like some things are you're like, why? But I think at the end of one day, maybe in 10 years, Willie will look back. I'll give you a call, be like, remember that time? We were saying time.
It's
But
time now. Finally, I figured out why the heck that was happening 10 years
that
ago.
took that long. But again, like you said, it's refreshing to have someone to talk about this too, because I
Yeah.
don't talk about this to not many people or anyone because they don't get it. So you're like, why should I just I'll just keep it to myself. So I've learned to journal or podcasts, or I love podcasts or working out or whatever, but it's hard. Like it's like a mental, it's not a battle, but you're just everywhere. Like
Yeah.
and you're like a step ahead, a step behind. You look to the side, yeah, it's a little draining.
Oh,
We're not
oh
alone.
my
It's nice to
goodness.
know I'm not
No,
alone.
but that's honestly I'm sure there's other people that feel the same way that we do, and that's why I wanted to do things like this.
Yeah,
Like that's why I wanted to tell stories just like this because, like, people have these feelings. Like people have so much success, and like again, people think that it's all that you're happy all the time, but like, yo, it's
no,
lonely. It's
it's hard.
lonely. It's a tough game. Like, it's a tough industry. It's a tough world. Period. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
no,
So I think these things need to be spoken about because it's going to help somebody. It's going to help somebody. Like your pain, our pain is going to help somebody succeed. So
yeah.
like I can't thank you enough for spending this time with me. This was awesome.
Of course, no, thank you. It was like a therapy session too.
Nah,
What was your? I read your on your bio. What is it? Come good, leave great.
yeah, come feeling good, leave feeling great.
Well, there you go. It's the best way to start Good Friday.
That's right. That's right. Oh